Here's a strange way to measure success. An organization deliberately making itself smaller. In 2026, the Ethereum Foundation cut roughly 1 in 5 of its jobs, watched both of its co-executive directors walk out the door, and said goodbye to 9 senior people in a single year. The headlines called it turmoil, a foundation in crisis. But there's a stranger reading. An organization that spent a decade insisting it doesn't run Ethereum just spent 2 years proving it. So which is it? Is the Ethereum Foundation falling apart, or finally doing the thing it always promised? To answer that, you have to know what the Ethereum Foundation actually is, because it's not what most people assume. Start with what it isn't. The Ethereum Foundation is not a company. It doesn't own Ethereum. It can't change the rules of the network by decree, it doesn't run the servers, and it has no power to set the price of Ether. It's a non-profit, set up in Switzerland back in 2014, in a quiet town called Zug that the crypto world nicknamed Crypto Valley. When Ethereum launched in 2015, the network minted its first batch of Ether, and a slice of that, 6 million coins, went to the foundation. No outside investors writing checks every quarter. No revenue from the network. Just a pile of Ether and a mandate. The foundation describes itself not as a ruler, but as a steward, a resource allocator. Think less head of state, more caretaker of a public park that technically belongs to everyone. So what does a steward actually do? It pays for the work nobody else will. Ethereum runs on open source software written by independent teams. The researchers designing upgrades, the client teams building the software that keeps the network alive, the people hunting for security holes, the ones maintaining the language smart contracts are written in. None of that has a business model. There's no product to sell, no subscription, no ads. It's a public good. Everyone benefits, so nobody in particular gets paid to do it. That's the gap the foundation fills. It funds the core research, hands out grants to builders, runs the big developer conference, and bankrolled years of the work behind Ethereum's biggest upgrades, like the switch from mining to staking, the unglamorous load-bearing plumbing, and it pays for all of it out of that original war chest of Ether. Here's the quietly clever part. Even as the foundation spends its Ether down, the dollar value of what's left can climb, as long as the price of Ether rises over time. So a treasury that looks like it's shrinking in coins can be growing in buying power. The foundation has leaned into a discipline it calls subtraction, deliberately spending a smaller and smaller share of its treasury each year, so the money lasts for the long haul instead of getting torched in a single bull market. The catch is that the foundation is, by design, indifferent to the Ether price in the short term. When the token is screaming higher, nobody complains. When Ether spends a brutal stretch underwater, more than cut in half from its peak, a price-agnostic foundation sitting on a fortune starts to look, to frustrated holders, a little tone-deaf. Which brings us back to the shrinking. For most of its life, the foundation faced a built-in criticism. For a network that's supposed to be decentralized, owned by no one, controlled by no one, an awful lot seemed to flow through one well-funded organization in Switzerland. If Ethereum needs the foundation, how decentralized is it really? The 2025 and 2026 reset is the foundation's answer to exactly that. It rewrote its own mandate to call itself not the first guardian of Ethereum, but one of many. It pushed work outward, off its own payroll and onto independent teams. The departures, in that framing, aren't the building burning down. They're people leaving the nest, some of them starting brand new organizations to fund Ethereum's future from outside the foundation entirely. The goal it's openly chasing is a network so robust, it would keep running, even if everyone at the foundation walked away tomorrow. So, crisis or the plan? Here's the honest answer. The network itself does not run on the foundation's headcount. The software runs on independent client teams, and the upgrades have kept shipping right through the turnover. A smaller foundation is not a broken Ethereum. But there's one thread that genuinely matters, and it isn't headcount. It's the checkbook. Somebody still has to pay the people doing the thankless core work. When the central funder deliberately steps back, The question was never whether Ethereum survives. It's whether a more scattered, donation-driven crowd reliably picks up the bill. A foundation you don't need is the goal. A foundation that quietly stopped paying for the work nobody else will is the risk. Ethereum is betting it can tell those two apart, and whether it's right is the part nobody can answer yet. We cover crypto on the days that actually matter, with explainers when it helps. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. We'll see you next time.